Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier, Mike's Instant Movie Review. Got out of the theater about half an hour ago. It was Treasure. The film is titled Treasure. It's a road story. It's a road trip. It's a father and daughter, daughter and father, as they would say in the film. I think it's a good movie. I think you could call this a drama with a tinge of dramedy. I think dramedy is actually my favorite type of film. What is a dramedy? It's a mix of drama and comedy, which I guess you could say that this one is, but it's kind of maybe like 70-30 drama. So it's 1990, and this young lady, 36 years old, journalist, is taking her father. Well, they're meeting up. They're both from New York City. He's originally Polish. He's a survivor of World War II, Auschwitz. Should you see the movie? Should you not? I think it's a movie worth seeing. There will be no sequels. There will be no prequels. This is a standalone film, which is another favorite of mine. Oh, God in heaven. And I think it's a movie worth seeing, yeah. So I've never been to Auschwitz. I've never been to these places of historical significance, death camps. I have not traveled there. And it's intense, you know. In this movie, that's where they eventually end up, the father and the daughter, but there's a whole lot of stuff that happens before that. And this movie, I'll give it credit, you know, first of all, it's a period piece. At this point, 1990 is 34 years ago. So we have to, the filmmakers, there's no characters walking around with a cell phone. No one's got a laptop. It's a different time, folks. And the vehicles in the movie have to look like vehicles from 1990. And it's 1990 in Poland. So things have to look like Poland. Also, another important thing for a period piece is the dialogue has to be of that era. Now, early in the film, there was a line from the female character, I would say the central character, Ruthie. She says, "Oh my fucking God." And I guess people talked that way back in 1990, like put the fucking in the middle of a phrase. I don't know if it was that prevalent. Maybe it was. I thought that was a thing that came later. I like to listen to that stuff. You know, for instance, there's a lot of expressions. You got this. I got this. That phrase is used a lot in movies of, you know, for instance, I pointed out in my review of the George Foreman movie, the George Foreman movie about a year ago, the couple of characters used the lines, "You got this, George." People didn't really say that a whole lot back then. Like that line, "You got this, I got this." That wasn't a line that people said a whole lot, okay? Speaking of okay, if you've been following my Mike's Instant Movie Reviews, you know my little thing about movies. Look to see how many times a film has the line, "Are you okay?" It's a very overused line of dialogue in film. It's kind of a hack line. It's a crutch. I've pointed out films like the most recent Mission Impossible movie from about 2 years ago. Tom Cruise was asking his female co-stars that line several times. "Are you okay?" This film had one "Are you okay?" in it, Treasure, late in the film, from their friend, the taxi driver. You might be wondering, what the hell is this movie about, Mike? So basically we have this father-daughter. The father's, I guess he would be about 60, maybe 65. He is a Auschwitz survivor. Him and his wife both survived. I guess they were teenagers at the time. They married. They had this daughter. When we start the movie, the mother has been deceased for about a year. The father and daughter kind of, you know, grew up with that silence. The parents did not want to speak about the Holocaust a whole lot, or they're surviving it, and most of their relatives got killed. I'm making this sound very dark and dramatic, but the movie's kind of lighter in many ways than I'm representing because, like I said, you know, a lot of this is just a daughter-father trying to connect, and the particulars yes, are particular to their story, but also I think a lot of fathers and daughters and other people could relate to this type of thing, trying to bond with a parent who might be silent, not talk about the tragedies they've lived through. And this character that we get to know quite well by the end of it, this big man, the dad, Isaac, I think his name was like Isaac, Edic, if I'm saying that correct, Edic, kind of a hard name to pronounce. He is, pretty lovable, but at times he does things that fathers can do, or parents in general, which is kind of undermine their kids, just casually to strangers, kind of, tear apart his kid. Obviously he wants to be a grandfather, so he kind of takes this morbid joy in parading the fact that his daughter does not have children and she's divorced. And parents have a way of doing that. They have a way of like embarrassing their kids and trotting out their children's dirty laundry in front of strangers for their own morbid purposes. It's just a sick thing that a lot of parents do. The daughter, for her, thing, and this was a good thing, spoilers by the fucking way. The daughter is trying to arrange this whole tourist trip to the homeland, to Poland. Poland was the home of many Jewish people, and that sometimes gets overlooked these days, but it's true. And she's arranged like this whole travel itinerary with train rides, and the father does not want to get on the train, and we don't realize this, and even I didn't realize this till towards the end of the movie, that the trains, just getting on any type of train, especially in Poland, is traumatic for our buddy here, for Edic, the father, because, the trains are what took his family to their deaths. So, interesting. And, it's one of those deals where the daughter kind of has like this trip, mapped out to the T. The father, because he kind of wants to do his own thing, and she's like, well, Dad, I was going to come here without you. You didn't have to come. And he's like, well, I would not let my daughter go alone. So basically he's still in the mentality that it's 1940s and that Jewish people, especially Jewish women, should not be traveling in Poland alone because the Nazis might come and hurt her. But of course, that's, 45, 40, 50 years earlier than 1990 that they're in. So what it comes to, in my opinion, is post-traumatic stress to the highest degree. I mean, can you imagine these people that survived this horrible situation? You talk about post-traumatic disorder with people, if you survived a war or you survived a car accident or whatever. But can you imagine the horrors that you would experience if you were an Auschwitz or any type of concentration camp survivor? Jeez. Once again, the movie's not that dark. It really isn't. It's just, these were some of the things you kind of leave with. The characters I did like. I mean, you can see that there's this pain that they've been sharing, and some of this stuff reminded me of elements of my own family in regards. You have like this daughter character who is, her job is, she is a journalist, and she's kind of seeing this whole thing with her family as kind of another story in some regard, and the father kind of wants to forget about all this stuff. He's survived it, he's lived through it, he's built himself a life with his wife, they had their daughter, now he's a widower. But it's painful for him to go back. And it makes you think about that type of thing, in pursuit of our lineage. Do we dig up the ghosts of our relatives past and confront them with it? And, there's no easy answers here, folks. That's why some of this stuff, like this 23andMe and all this crap, I haven't done it. I haven't signed up for that stuff, but I'm sure some of you have, and you can leave your comments and your thoughts about it. But I mean, is it worth digging into this stuff. There are these stories now of people doing this 23andMe thing and finding out, oh my God, I was adopted, or oh my God, I have a sibling that I didn't think I had, or whatever the fuck. So all those types of stories are all over the place, all over YouTube. Interesting. Yeah, but I did like this movie. I mean, I thought it was quite good. I mean, I'd probably give it 3 3/4 or 4 stars. I mean, the significance of the movie is pretty high. I can speak for probably a good deal of us. Many of us will not have the opportunity or take the opportunity or make it to travel to Poland, to go to the war camps, the death camps, and explore. And many of us wouldn't want to, and many of us who might want to can't for whatever reason, financial. So a movie like this kind of gives you that experience in some regard. One little interesting thing is that the camps, the Auschwitz, some of the side characters, like the people at the hotel and stuff, refer to Auschwitz as the Auschwitz Museum. And our girl Ruthie there is quick to correct everyone and say, it's not a museum, it's a war camp, it's a death camp. She says death camp. And, and I'm kind of like that. I like precise language myself. I don't like it when people use words incorrectly. If they say things like, I could care less. I'm the first asshole to wave my hand and say, actually, idiot, you mean to say I couldn't care less. But, sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. So yeah, I like this film. I mean, is there anything... One thing I did like, and this is going to sound like a weird compliment. What I did like about this film, it didn't have an overbearing musical accompaniment score. Danny Elfman was not hired to write a full score for this movie. I just use him because he's done a lot of movies. Just like a lot of movies where they feel they need to have the violins and the harp and whatever the fuck else. What's that thing with the 2 poles and the radio signals that you put your fingers in? That weird instrument. It's like the sound waves, that thing. But there's no orchestral accompaniment. There is music in this movie, which is nice, but I'm just saying it doesn't overdo it with the music. Like when you see a Disney film, animated or not, they always overdo it. They always have to have, every fucking scene has to have a violin behind it to manipulate our emotions, okay? And once we've seen these movies a million times, or a million movies one time, it to me, it triggers, I don't want to hear all this fucking violins and horse shit. You know what I mean? I want to experience the emotions raw. So that's why I like this type of film, where it's like, okay, we've got our story here. We've got the father and daughter trying to connect. They're in a different place. They're in a time without cell phones, no assholes checking their cell phones during the movie. And we're learning a little bit about history and so forth. So I enjoyed it. It's one of those movies where this is my type of movie, a thinking person's film. You know what I mean? Yes, all the big box office blockbusters are exciting and fun, and all the horror movies that I go to, I enjoy the horror movies. And I think we've lost comedy a bit. Like it seems, I could be wrong, but it seems like there's very few just straight out comedy films. Like, you don't have Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy out there making movies anymore. Or I guess there are comedies. I just can't think of a lot that are funny. But I don't would you consider the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? Is that a comedy? I mean, that's not a funny movie. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to think, are there, maybe it's our age where, gotcha, and you can't say this and you can't say that. But I miss the comedy genre. You know what I mean? So in any event, I think this is a good movie. So go see it. Mike Messier. Lena Dunham was the star. And I think this is one of these people that's famous, but I don't really know for what. I think she was in some type of Netflix show or some type of fucking 1 hour show that I never watched that you fine folks probably did. I think that's the actress's name. Lena Dunham. Orange is the New Black or whatever the fuck she was on. But yeah, she's good. And then the guy that plays her dad is good. And so on and so forth. So I did enjoy the movie. And what else could I say? I thought it was good. So Mike Messier, MikeMessier.com. I'm having a bit of a, it's like 12:45 in the morning now, Sunday morning. Just an odd day for me, sleep-wise. So my whole fucking mind is off. You know what I mean? I'll probably be up till 5 in the fucking morning now because I took naps today. You know what I mean? Which is always a pain in the ass. Like, you have that nap, and now your fucking whole system's fucked. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of experiencing that. And you can go to One Artist, Mike Messier, to see my wonderful art on YouTube. One Artist, the number one artist, Mike Messier. You can go to One Man and a Camera Films to see my wonderful films. Blood Sugar Sedase, Disregard the Vampire, a Mike Messier documentary. Many Keys, The Heartbreak Monologue. All these wonderful presentations at your disposal. You can even subscribe to all these channels. Do your buddy a favor. You can go for the pro wrestling and sports fans, One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan YouTube channel. I understand that the Mass Wrestling Fan has some new information for you wrestling fans. I'm going to put on my glasses. You can go to MikeMessier.com and buy one of my wonderful books. You can do all these things. These are your options. Okay, folks.